Ding dong. How much that stuff go up to now?
Hello. Welcome. Good evening to the Molalla Planning Commission for January 7th, 2026. Please join me in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Next is roll call. I guess we'll begin with Ms. Worth.
Jessica Worth, Community Development Technician, present.
Engineering Section Manager Sam Miller, present.
Assistant City Manager Matt Corthell, present.
Commissioner Ornelas, present.
Commissioner Sharp, present.
Commissioner Eagleberg, present.
Commissioner Ansel, present.
Commissioner Potts, present.
Commissioner Ricky, present.
Planning Manager Zinder, present.
Associate Planner Clarissa Davis, present.
All right, thank you. Up next is the consent agenda for the minutes from October 15th. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any other notes needed by the commission? Okay. Ms. Orth, will you please call the vote?
Commissioner Ansel?
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp? Aye. Commissioner Ornelas?
Aye.
Commissioner Ricky?
Aye.
Commissioner Potts?
Aye.
Chairman Eaglebear?
Aye.
Thank you. The vote passes 3-0-0. I mean 6, sorry.
Public comment. Now's the time to receive public comment on items not listed on the agenda. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to present information relevant to the city, but not listed as an item on the agenda. Prior to speaking, citizens shall complete a comment form and deliver it to the support staff. Planning Commission does not generally engage in dialogue with those making comments, but may refer the issue to the Community Development Director. Complaints shall first be addressed at the department level prior to addressing the Planning Commission. Do we have any public comment slips submitted or anything?
No, not tonight.
Okay.
There may be some folks that are here to speak though, and
Okay.
then we might not have gotten slips, so I want to pull the audience if that's okay, Chair.
Sure.
Are there any folks that are here to speak in public comment tonight? Okay, no, we do have some written public comment for you though. So I thought maybe some of these folks wanted to come up and say some things. So you have 3 public comments in front of you. One of those is in regards to the Clackamas County Transportation System Plan update. These are just ways that the community can engage in that process for the Clackamas County TSP. If you have an interest in that, and obviously we wanted to share this information as well so you could share it with the community if anyone's interested in the TSP for Clackamas County, that they know how to go about participating in that, and if there's any questions, just refer them back to us and we'll get them to the right place.
All right.
So that's the first one. The second one, there are actually 2 here together. Oh, I'm sorry, they're not together. One of them is from Mr. Corwin DeMio Ediger. And he was speaking to a clarification, I believe, on the other email that you guys should have in front of you from Mr. Jim Gilbert. So those 2 comments were provided to us just this afternoon. Just this afternoon, and actually it looks like just before noon. So, but at any rate, just today. So we've gotten those in there. Also, during my staff communication at the end of the meeting, I did prepare some information to provide that I've been able to gain since these emails kind of started circulating a few days ago. But the public comment you have in front of you is on its own right now.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Does everybody got any questions regarding the public comment?
And I will say, again, I will expand on some of this during my staff report. At the
Okay.
end of the,
Okay.
staff communication at the end. Wasn't able to get anything put together by agenda time, so that's why it's coming in staff communication.
All right. All right, with that, sounds like we're moving into our hearings. All right, so we're gonna move into our public hearings section. I'm gonna start with the first one. I guess now is the time set for public hearings to consider a quasi-judicial land use application. The application SDR 02-2024 is for the renovation of a building at 220 West Main Street, Molalla, that will result in the expansion of commercial uses. Now we will proceed with the quasi-judicial land use public hearing, starting with an introduction to the procedures for the hearing. I will introduce the applicable substantive criteria upon which each case will be decided. Our associate planner, Clarissa Davis, will provide a staff report. When the staff report has been presented, I will open the public hearing to public testimony. Members of the public who want to testify are asked to sign in and indicate that they will testify on the sign-in sheet. Come up to the podium when called and give their name, address, and city of residence for the record before you testify. We are asking for your address so that we can notify you of the city's final decision. If you have any written testimony or other evidence to submit, please give that to the staff so it can be entered into the record. When public testimony has been concluded, I will close the public hearing and open Planning Commission discussion and deliberation. After the commission is deliberated, we will need a motion to approve, modify, or deny the application. Are there any questions among the commission about the process? Oregon land use law requires several items to be read into the record at the beginning of a quasi-judicial public hearing. Conflicts of interest, ex parte contact, and bias. The commission is required to disclose any conflicts of interest and ex parte contacts that we may have with the land use application or applicant. This is whether we have any financial or other personal interest in a proposal and whether we have spoken with anybody or have other information about a proposal gathered outside of this hearing. Also, commissioners may participate if they can do so without undue bias, either for or against an application. Do any commissioners wish to make any disclosures?
No.
Okay. Are there any challenges from the audience as to conflicts of interest, ex parte contacts, or bias related to any member of the commission? Seeing none. Required statements. The applicable procedural and substantive criteria upon which SDR 02-2024 will be decided are found in Molalla Municipal Code sections 17-4.2.050 approval criteria for site design review. Your testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward these criteria other criteria in the comprehensive plan or development code that you believe apply per ORS 197.763 section 5B. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond may preclude appeal of a decision on this application based on that issue per ORS 197.763 section 5C. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court per ORS 197.796 section 3B. public hearing. I now open the public hearing for application SDR 02 2024 at 6:41 p.m. I call on Associate Planner Clarissa Davis to present the staff report for the first application.
Thank you. Good evening, Planning Commission. As mentioned, I'm Clarissa Davis. I'm the Associate Planner here at the City of Molalla. I'm here to speak with you all tonight about a land use application for a commercial renovation of an existing commercial building located at 220 West Main Street with the project file SDR 02-2024. Give me a moment.
I may have to re-grab the. Oh, we found him.
Okay.
There we go.
Let's see if we can get to the big size again. We will not
doesn't-
be doing that.
It doesn't like it big.
Okay, sorry guys, we're
Slightly
gonna have it a little bit smaller. But as we get going, here's some housekeeping. I formally submit the written city staff report and exhibits into the meeting record. And if you or any in the audience want to follow along tonight, you're welcome to do so by going to thecityofmolalla.com, clicking on today's meeting, and opening the packet document. You can also access this by following the QR code, and I'll give a moment in case anyone wants to do that now. Okay, so to give an application overview, the applicant, who is both the owner and the applicant in this case, is applying for land use approvals to do a commercial renovation on an existing building. You all may be familiar with this building. It's pretty close to our downtown area, and it's located at 220 West Main. For some background, the subject lot that this application is located on was created by a property line adjustment with the case file name PLA 03-2024. This property line adjustment consolidated the lot the building is on and the parking lot into one lot. The applicant is required to show proof that full recording with the county surveyors is completed prior to submitting building permits. SDR 02-2024 was submitted in December of 2024 and deemed incomplete in January of 2025 in accordance with the Molalla Municipal Code. This application was then deemed complete on June 16th of 2025. The city and the applicants agreed to extend the 120-day review period to the maximum legally allowed by ORS to allow the applicant to submit supplemental materials such as the transportation analysis letter that would allow us to recommend approval. This maximum allowed extension of a 245-day period officially ends on February 16th of 2026. Public notice for this project was done in accordance with Molalla Municipal Code for a Type 3 procedure and in accordance with state law. Public notice was posted on the website. It was mailed to people who have properties within 300 feet of the project site. It was also mailed to interested parties on our interested parties list. It was posted on the Pioneer newspaper, and a poster of the project with more information was posted on the property. Thus far, the city has received no written public comments on this application. So as was mentioned previously, site design review criteria are housed within 17-4.2.050 approval criteria, and this references the Division 3 Community Design Standards. This application was then reviewed against all of those reference standards, which include items like building orientation, access and circulation, landscaping, parking, and more. Here is an image of the subject site. It is located to the south of Oregon 211-Main Street and to the east of Hart Avenue. So it's in that southeast quadrant of that intersection. The site is zoned C2, and it is also surrounded by commercial zoning. To the west and south is more C2 zoning, and then expanding that and encircling all of that C2 zoning is C1 zoning. Another important note for this application is that it is technically non-conforming development. Non-conforming developments were built prior to the current standards, and they would not be allowed to be built today under our current development standards. Non-conforming developments are reviewed in a special manner because they are not allowed to be enlarged or altered in a way that increases its nonconformity by more than 50%. And in fact, in order to increase a nonconforming development at all, an applicant will need to apply for a variance. Luckily for our applicant, everything that they proposed brought the proposed project closer to conforming with city standards. So here's then an image of the existing conditions. I'm sure you are all familiar with it. It's on our main street there. It's a typical warehouse building with a contractor's office. And here's an image of the proposed elevation, what the applicant is proposing to do. So they are substantially increasing the window coverage. They're including cement and metal siding, and they are adding more public entrances into the building that will be accessed by the tenant spaces. Here's an image of the proposed rear elevation, and they are also adding some more accesses onto that side as well. This is the applicant's proposed site plan. First off, the applicant has proposed to resurface and restripe, as well as reconfigure that existing parking lot. They're also proposing to add landscaping in 3 separate landscaping islands. Additionally, this application and this site has access from Hart Avenue, and that will remain and be the only access point onto this property. The applicant has also provided ADA parking as well as bike parking on their site plans. And as we recently discussed, they are going to do modifications to the elevation that bring the project into closer conformity with the Molalla Municipal Code. The applicant submitted a transportation analysis letter as part of this application submittal, and they did not need to submit the transportation impact analysis because they didn't meet the thresholds requiring that. The transportation analysis letter showed that there would be minimal increases to the site in terms of trip counts, and that the project frontages did not have much crash history. This application also qualifies for off-street parking reductions. The planning official may reduce the off-street parking standards by 1 parking space for every 2 on-street parking spaces located adjacent to the subject site. And as you can see, I've added some icons of cars here. Just so you know, these aren't to scale. It definitely looks like you can add a lot more cars, but the Molalla Municipal Code requires a full 22-foot length space for every parking space that you are allotting. And additionally, these subject sites have a crosswalk, they have no parking spaces due to the intersection, and a driveway. So in reality, there's only room for 6 adjacent on-street parking spaces, and that would allow for 3 parking spaces to be reduced from their required total. Next, we'll get into some highlights from the conditions of approval. What I think is most exciting are the frontage improvements. So for Oregon 211/Main Street, the applicant will be required to build out the transportation systems plan's cross-section. For those of you who are familiar with Oregon 211, which is all of us, it is already pretty built out to standard. So what this means for the applicant is that they will be required to bring the sidewalks up to code, as well as convert the existing turn lane into on-street parking in accordance with the TSP. Additionally, ODOT is requiring the applicant to close the existing unused accesses from Oregon 211 onto the subject site. The next frontage improvements are along Hart Avenue, and there's a little bit more to do here. The applicant is going to be required to dedicate 5 feet of right-of-way, and they will also be required to bring the transportation to build out the transportation system plan from center line to curb. Additionally, they will need to bring the southeast corner of the intersection up to ADA standards. And then we're going to dive into their site plan. So the existing site has a fence that does not meet the code standards of the Molalla Municipal Code. They will either need to show prior planning approval for this fence or remove it. Additionally, in that rear spot of the building where there's that 2 there, There seems to be some issues that could potentially happen between pedestrians and vehicles. And so staff is requiring the use of pedestrian demarcation in that area to try to limit these confusions around this situation. Another issue that we saw was that the applicant hadn't suggested screening along Hart Avenue, and that's a requirement from the code, so that way when cars are parked, their headlights don't shine into adjacent right-of-ways. Next, staff has foreseen to give the option to re-evaluate where the bike racks are located. The downtown master plan actually suggests that bike racks get placed on the sidewalks in the downtown area. So staff is foreseen to give this opportunity for the applicant to work with staff to potentially remove and move where those bike racks are located. Currently, they're in the back of the building, hard to see, hard to access unless you know they're there. So we're given the opportunity to work with staff on that option.
Can I expound on that a little
Yeah.
bit for just a second? So in the downtown master plan, basically, there's a page that has streetscapes options for the downtown area in which this is a part of, and so part of the streetscape elements are going to be street trees along that'll sort of be abutting the road on that, and then so along that same plane, there's other elements that they recommend putting in, such as benches, bike racks, things of that nature. And so that's roughly where the bike racks would be. You'd have the trees and then sort of a furniture area where you'd have the bike racks in, so as not to obstruct the pedestrian flow closer into the building.
Mm-hmm. And
Back to
that'll
you.
be 10 feet sidewalks along that front there, so plenty of room for all of that. Next is the public utility easement dedication. This is very standard for all of our projects. However, as you'll notice, there is a building in that space that we usually grab, and so we're not going to be taking that public utility easement where the building is located. Next, commercial projects over a certain square footage are required to have civic space. However, this project would qualify for a civic space exemption. So the applicant will either need to show civic space on their plan set or provide proof that they would qualify for that exemption. And I believe that proof is basically that the total cost of renovations does not exceed 50% of the project or of the site valuation. And finally, the applicants will be required to put in on-site storm detention, and the applicant has mentioned this in their narrative and is ready to work with engineering on that when they come in for civil review. So based on the findings and conclusions in Exhibits A and B of the submitted staff report, staff hereby recommend the Planning Commission approve the applicant's proposed site design review, subject to the conditions of approval found in Title III of the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All people speaking before the Planning Commission must state their name and address for the record. Is there any written public comment for the record about this project?
There was no written comment received for this project.
I now invite the applicant to present their case.
The applicant is not in attendance tonight.
All right. I invite those in support of the application to speak. I invite those opposed to the application to speak. I invite those who are neither for nor against the application to speak. Okay. I invite public agencies to comment. And I invite the applicant to present any rebuttal to the testimony. They are not present. All right. Well then, I will then close the public hearing for application number SDR 02-2024 at 6:55 p.m. Is there a request to keep the record open? Now is the time for commission deliberation and discussion. Note, only questions asked of staff are allowed after the hearing has been closed. Deliberation. anything to bring up? Talk about? No? Okay.
No, I think the new cookout will be nice for the city.
Yeah.
Pretty
I think it'll be fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Clean things up. Yeah.
I did have one concern about your bike rack moving to the front. Wouldn't that be right in the middle of the sidewalk? Since you can't move the building?
It's a 10-foot sidewalk, so there would be room on the public sidewalk for adequate ADA passage as well as the bike parking.
Isn't sidewalk guidelines 8 feet and bike racks are 5?
No, our standard is 6 feet. This one's oversized just because it is, it's been that way. So there's room on this particular development.
Gotcha. I was just curious. I mean, I just,
And also, it's also downtown area width is wider.
wider. Okay.
So it's only in that downtown district that we have the option for these streetscape elements.
Gotcha. Okay. That's all I could get out of that little report, so.
Yeah, and really only in the places where
It's needed.
where we can do it. You know,
Yeah.
if you go east one building to where the gym is, those are like 4-foot sidewalks. And
yeah.
there's nowhere for it to go, so there's not going to be bike racks there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
It's a good question.
So, other than that, I got nothing. I mean, I think it's a great thing that somebody wants to do finally with that building after 20 years of Keith Brown's being gone.
Just again, you guys cool? Nothing?
I'm good.
Well, then I need to get a motion to approve, modify, or deny.
I motion to approve SDR 02-2024 as written. I mean, there's no changes needed.
All right.
I second.
All right. Ms. Rose, can you call the vote?
Yes, sir. Chairman Eaglebear.
Aye.
Commissioner Potts.
Aye.
Commissioner Riggy.
Aye.
Commissioner Ornelas.
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp.
Aye.
Commissioner Hansel.
Aye.
Thank you. The vote passes 6-0-0.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving on to number 2. Got to read this all over again.
All over.
All right.
Same as the first.
Same as the first. Okay. All
It's a
right.
little different.
Application number 2. Now is the time set for public hearing to consider a quasi-judicial land use application. The application CUP01-2025 is for a new auto sales use at 709 West Main Street, Molalla. Now we will proceed with the quasi-judicial land use public hearing, starting with an introduction to the procedures for the hearing. I will introduce the applicable and substantial criteria upon which each case will be decided. Our planning manager, Dan Zinder, will provide a staff report. When the staff report has been presented, I will open the public hearing to public testimony. Members of the public who want to testify are asked to sign in and indicate that they will testify on the sign-in sheet, come up to the podium when called, and give their name, address, and city of residence for the record before they testify. We are asking for your address so that we can notify you of the city's final decision. If you have any written testimony or other evidence to submit, please give that to staff so it can be entered into the record. When public testimony has been concluded, I will close the public hearing and open Planning Commission discussion and deliberation. After the commission has deliberated, we will need a motion to approve, modify, or deny the application. Are there any questions among the commission about the process? No. Oregon land use law requires several items to be read into the record at the beginning of a quasi-judicial public hearing. Conflicts of interest, ex parte contacts, and bias. The commission is required to disclose any conflicts of interest and ex parte contacts that we may have with the land use applicant or application or applicant. This is whether we have any financial or other personal interest in a proposal and whether we have spoken with anybody or have other information about a proposal gathered outside of this hearing. Also, commissioners may only participate if they can do so without undue bias either for or against an application. Do any commissioners wish to make disclosures on this application?
No.
Are there any challenges from the audience as to conflicts of interest, ex parte contact, or bias related to any member of the commission? Seeing none. Required statements. The applicable procedural and substantive criteria upon which CUP 01-2025 will be decided are found in Molalla Municipal Code Section 17-4.4.040, criteria, standards, and conditions of approval for a conditional use permit. Your testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward these criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or development code that you believe apply per ORS 197763, Section 5B. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond may preclude appeal of decision on this application based on that issue per ORS 197.763, Section 5C. Failure of an applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action or damages in circuit court per ORS 197.796, Section 3B. I now open the public hearing for application CUP 01-2025 at 7:03 p.m. And I'll call on Planning Manager Dan Zinder to present the staff report for this application.
All right. Good evening, Commission. I am Planning Manager Dan Zinder to present the staff report for the new auto sales use at 709 West Main Street, also Oregon 211, for CUP 01-2025. With this presentation, staff submits the written staff report and exhibits into the meeting record. To give an overview of the application, the applicant Frank Walker, on behalf of William Weiland, seeks to establish land use approval for a new auto sales use on an existing development on a parcel located at 709 West Main Street / Oregon 211 in Molalla. The conditional use permit was triggered by its designation automotive sales, which includes motorcycles, boats, recreational vehicles, and trucks. Not necessarily in their case, I think they're just selling cars and maybe trucks, with no junking and salvage operations. So basically it's allowed in the general commercial zone subject to conditional use permit, and that's what brings it in front of us. So yeah, this site is located on Oregon 211 / West Main Street. It's a parcel with existing buildings on it. There's I think it's like for horseshoes in the back there.
It's a farrier.
Farrier for horseshoe supplies. And then this building in the front was previously used for area-wide towing, who isn't there anymore, and so and these guys would be coming into the front area there, those couple of buildings up there, and the lot outside as the display lot for the cars. Surrounding land uses include residential entirely to the north, and and then also to the east, residential uses. To the west, there's a residential use that was also recently approved for a commercial use. That was that pool and spa, or not pool cover in this case. No, it wasn't the pool and spa. It was a pool cover business that isn't shown. The imagery hasn't quite caught up to where they're at yet. And then of course across the street is the new gas station, which again is imagery is a little behind on. So smattering of commercial and residential uses. So the application was submitted on November 10th. It was deemed complete on November 18th in accordance with section 13-4.4.030. We met all the requirements for noticing. Noticing happened in the website, on the Pioneer, on the property in late November, early December, and we received no written public comment on the application. this again is the approval criteria, MMC 17-4.4.040, and then the submission criteria below it for conditional use permitting. I already discussed the surrounding land uses. Again, it's only that front portion that's being used for the proposed site. And zoning, so some of to the north is the light residential, low density residential properties, and then general commercial around it on all the other sides. So again, this is a development that has pre-existing non-conforming status. It was built prior to the current development standards, and current standards would not allow it to be built as it was. The development is non-conforming for reasons that include building design, landscaping, lighting, and parking lot design. So then we have these non-conforming development descriptions of how it can be modified, which I kind of liken to the Second Amendment, because you have one clause that directly seems to contradict another clause, and then everyone gets to fight over it for years. So that doesn't seem to happen with this one as much. But we have the non-conforming development should not be enlarged or altered in a way that increases its non-conformity by more than 50%. And then it also states that improvements must move the property towards conformance, at the very least not increase the non-conforming status. So if you do something to the site, it must move it towards conformance, but you can keep some of the non-conforming elements as long as you're not building them bigger. This is our site plan. So again, you've got the access off of Oregon 211 West Main Street. It's actually built, and the frontage improvements were done as part of Cascade Center. So the access for this is actually to standard access. So no modifications are needed for that. There's some existing landscaping on the property, both on the east side and to the west of the access. And then they're going to move, there's an existing fence that they're going to move a couple feet back so that the parking no longer interferes with the access. So you don't have necessarily cars pulling out into where people are coming in. And then the existing office building that they'll run the sales office out of. Yep. So no new building area is proposed or other elements are proposed. So with that, I'll get to our highlights from our condition of approval. So the lot is currently surfaced with gravel surfacing. It's assumed that there's a concrete layer under that, either concrete or asphalt. So if that appropriate surfacing exists, what we're requiring is that they remove the gravel and that no further action need to be taken. Remove the gravel so that it's not tracking out onto the road and other areas. But if not, paving of the drive aisles and parking areas will be required. There's some of the landscaping has sort of died off, so we'll require that they fill in died off areas, remove the invasive. There's some ailanthus trees in there to provide screening to the right of way, so that in the areas where there are landscaping in front of the parking and display areas that the landscaping will be filled in. If the applicant's to install lighting, it will meet the dark skies and code. None was proposed with the application, but just letting them know. And then the sign lighting will also have to meet the requirements. It can't be brighter than like 2-foot candles. So, and then there's a right-of-way dedication and a PUE dedication that are required. The right-of-way to meet the TSP cross-section. All the surveys that we've seen have shown that there's still 4 feet that need to be dedicated. So our assumption is that'll need to happen. And then a 10-foot public utility easement, they'll be able to park over it. For now, we're not requiring them to move the landscaping or anything like that. It's just to have that in the event that the right cross-section will be built. And then the last, of course, is to acquire building permits as applicable in occupancy through Clackamas County. So I've enumerated the conditional use permit conditioning options. Since it's not a design review, there are sort of pre-existing non-conforming status elements, but these are what you can do is limit the hours, days, place, or manner of operations. You can require certain site or architectural design features. You can require larger setback areas, limiting the building or structure height, size, lot coverage, and the location of the site. Designated the size, number, location, and or design of vehicle access points or parking and loading areas. Requiring street right-of-way to be dedicated, or the installation of pathways or sidewalks is applicable. Requiring landscaping, screening, drainage, water quality features, improvement of parking and loading areas. Limiting the number, size, location, and height or lighting of signs. Limiting or setting standards for the location, type, design, and or intensity of outdoor lighting. Requiring berms, screening, or landscaping, and the establishment of standards for their installation and maintenance. Requiring or designating the size, height, location, and or materials for fences. Protection or preservation of existing trees, soils, vegetation, etc., and requiring improvements to water, sanitary, sewer, storm drainage systems and conforming with city standards. So we basically, of that list, staff came up with a list of conditions that we felt was applicable to the site and not in excess of what they were proposing. But these are the options that you have within CUP within a conditional use permitting process. The last one, we can require a review and renewal of conditional use permits up to annually or another timetable. So, with that, based on the findings and conclusions in Exhibit A, city staff hereby recommends that the Planning Commission approve the applicant's proposed preliminary conditional use permitting, subject to the conditions of approval found in the staff report and submitted to the Planning Commission for file CUP 01/2025. And that concludes my staff report.
All right, thank you much. All right, next, all people speaking before the Planning Commission must state their name and address for the record. Is there any written public comment for the record?
There is not.
All right. I invite the applicant to present their case. Hello.
Good evening. Got a little hot tonight.
Yeah.
Sorry, we like that. I'm gonna let my client introduce himself first. I'm his representative.
My name's William Wyland. Lived here my whole life and been driving past that piece of property for years. I told myself when I was about ready to retire, I want to get that place, and it emptied up. The tow yard left, and I just happened to drive in there and talk to Dave, the owner of the property, and come to find out that he knows a lot of my family and stuff, and he wants me to lease it out to him. So I'm looking forward to it.
And my name is Frank Walker. I'm a land use consultant from Frank Walker and Associates. And my physical address is 4949 Riverside Drive, Salem, Oregon 97306. And my mailing address is P.O. Box 870, Turner, Oregon 97312. I've known some of the staff here for a number of years, and Dan, I'm going to reveal your age. And we had a really fruitful pre-application conference. It was very informative, very thorough, and that really helped guide us to preparing the application in the manner we did. Well, with that said, there's a lot of work to be done post-approval, and we're not complaining about that. It is a conditional use permit, and it's been conditioned very well by Dan, and we intend to fill all those requirements. I do have a couple of comments to make. Number one, a conditional use permit is more or less applied, permitted, as long as you meet conditions. And I think the staff reports indicated we have met those conditions, and we do intend to met those forthwith. One of the challenges we have at that site is that he does not own the property, he's leasing it. So the owner is not here tonight. I wanted to know from staff or anyone else here if you feel that's appropriate procedurally. The property owner is actually not here.
That's fine.
Okay.
We didn't even have the applicant for the last one.
I don't know anything my client wants to say, but I will say from what I've seen thus far, this man is a dynamo. I mean, we were out there scraping gravel off to see if there was paving underneath the gravel. And we got dirty at the site, just really studying it. And we did go around and confer with as many neighbors as possible. And when we got started, we went to a property east of his. And the minute the lady opened the door, she slammed it on us. And I said, "Who is that lady?" She said, "Oh, that's my sister."
She was playing games with him.
Still is. I thank the staff for all the hard work. I've been at it a number of years. But there are a lot of complexities to this case post-approval, and it's going to require dedications and environmental studies. So we have to tend to those pretty quickly, and hopefully we can address those effectively. But there's basically a dedication of a, is it a 4 foot?
4 foot dedication.
Yeah, 4 foot dedication for utilities, and it would enhance the value of the property. But I did want to remind staff and anyone here that he is leasing this property, is not the owner of record. So with that, he's already done a lot of improvements, and he does have a major concern about when he can actually commence the business. And we hope we can work those out with staff perhaps, unless you want to elaborate that.
No, it's just, I've already reached out to a place to do the environmental, certified environmental assessment. Reached out to them today, and they're ready to come out whenever. I know that there's a timeline that we have to wait on for the ODOT to sign off on the title for the deed to that 4 foot dedication. Matter of fact, we just talked to Dave. We left this place, and he's all good with that. I've been waiting for a long time. I'm sure I can wait a couple more months to get all that handled, but I'm ready to move forward as fast as possible.
For such a small lease property, there's a lot of interagency coordination, more than I'm normally accustomed to.
Yeah, we've already done the traffic analysis and all that, so.
That's a concern we can, it's in the report, it's basically a very low traffic generating use on the base there. Hopefully we don't impact, I mean, there's a lot of traffic generation has been added to that street with the advent of the development across the street. So I think staff is sensitive to that, we hopefully address that to your satisfaction.
Yeah.
Is there any questions or comments you may have?
No?
No.
Go ahead. You guys have any questions?
No.
None.
No.
No? No, we're good?
I'll just say from a staff perspective, we're happy to work with you guys, just on the timing of some of those to make sure some of the maybe outside agencies don't cause delays on your end and figure out what we can do to the best that we can. So we can start that, pending approval, we can start that conversation.
Yeah. Thank you for opening the door, though.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. And we'll go back here to hear your level run up.
Deny, right?
All right. I invite those in support of the application to speak. I invite those opposed.
Hold on.
We've got one.
Yes. You have to state your name and the city you reside in.
I'm Robert Hafner. My property is directly north of this. And if I 578 West Lane. And my concern is, way back quite a while ago, Dave and I talked, and he was considering this, and he told me that there would never be more than 10 cars allowed there that were for sale. And he also said it was used cars, and I'm reading this where it says new cars. My concern is that when the towing company was there, it was, her area was considered secured lockup. In fact, when I wanted to redo my fence there, she told me she had to be present for me to even redo my fence, and I told Dave, I do not understand how you can have a secured compound when half the fencing is private. And he said, well, it's all been approved. Well, it was all there when I bought the place and moved there. I've been there going on 8 years now. I've had no problems with Dave. But after I replaced my fence there, we were at the coast, and I came home, and there's a note on my door from Cindy. And one of her cars had got loose and went through my just rebuilt fence. So, you know, Dave made it all right and everything. And I don't know whether that was one reason she moved the towing outfit out of there or not. But my concern is how, you know, we get dust and everything from Dave's trucks coming in and out there. I don't know whether the car business is gonna all be out front or going back towards me or what. I don't have a clue on that aspect, and I've never heard anything about it.
Well, I could comment to that. I mean, I can go back actually to the, so see, so on that map, the purple is the property, and then the red is the proposed area where the cars would be. So the cars would be all up front.
So it doesn't go behind the buildings there?
No, it wouldn't go behind the buildings.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't want it, you know, I was pretty happy to see the towing outfit move out of there.
Sure. But I think they may access the front area by driving around sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes.
Like I said, I've never had a problem with Dave.
Mr. Weil, you'll get the chance to check.
Oh, I just wanted to sit down with him.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
But he was saying that they went around and talked to people. The only one I've ever talked to has been Dave, so. And it's been quite a while back that we talked about it, and then nothing happened. You know, we had a dog grooming person that wanted to go in there to begin with. And like I said, I know very few people in the area, so, and this is all really new to me. I'm just concerned that something moving back on me, you know. A little bit of privacy is pretty nice, and the towing wasn't very private. And,
All right.
so that's all I got to say. You know, I'm not against Dave or the business or whatever. You know, if it's out front and not approaching on me. You know, Dave's got semis and everything else come in, and the dust is a little concerning. But
Well, thank you so much.
so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now I invite those opposed to the application to speak. I invite those who are neither for nor against the application to speak. I invite public agencies to comment. I invite the applicant to present any rebuttal to the testimony presented.
First of all, it's good to meet you, Robert. You're the one, if you're facing the property, the big fence all the way around. Yeah, I was gonna stop by there and try to talk to you, but I see a dog in there.
I don't have
We
any
don't
dogs.
Oh, there was a dog in there that day.
No.
And you got the big, anyways, the big tall fence coming all the way around. Okay, and he mentioned you and John, that's on the other side.
Sir?
Joe, Joe.
Sir, you need to please address the commission.
So anyways, the traffic analysis that was in there, I believe, came back with the previous place that was in there was 40 to 50 trucks coming in and out of there a day. It came back at 2.1 visits from customers with my business that's coming in there. There will be times there will be more than 10 cars, to be transparent with you. It might be 15 cars, but it is, everything is parked up front. And I've already cleared a lot of the gravel off. It is pavement underneath. There's some old pictures of it too, but the parking area is pavement, and the entrance is pavement. And a lot of people, Dave even told me, he goes, I didn't know that there was concrete underneath. And I said, well,
Is that right?
yeah, so I can show you. So I went out there and worked for 2 to 3 hours doing it. So and there was some rocks and loose gravel on the entrance, and I removed all that stuff, and I understand the concerns of dust and stuff like that. So my plan is, I mean, it does have existing pavement and concrete underneath. My plans is this summer, I've already talked to a paving company, that parking strip from the far right corner of the house coming out, I wanted to repave that. Just to knock down a lot of that for you guys. I'm a very quiet person. You are? Yeah, I am. But I just, I understand his concerns, and it will be very, very limited traffic.
Okay.
I mean, if you got 40 to 50 tow trucks coming in and out there in a 24-hour period, and you got 2 vehicles, if I got 2 vehicles a day coming in there, I'd be ecstatic. But I understand his concerns, and I'll address them.
Okay, thank you.
I'll comment further too. That was one of the very first things I embarked on is I'm a strong believer in citizen participation and protecting others' property rights when you're doing a zoning action. And we went to every house, but we didn't make contact with everyone that was adjacent. We visited all adjacent properties. And frankly, I learned a lot from the neighbors about this property, especially the one to the west. With that said, I wanted to point out something on the map that's a bit inaccurate. The actual area proposed on my client's going to lease is actually a pink line would be right between the gray building that's touching on the north. The white on the line actually goes right in between them. It's not as large as the
right there.
area represented on the map. I'm not faulting anybody by trying to use I think that is all one building with area represented that way. But actually that building has no functional use of the one with the dark roof to the operation. It's not even in the leased area, in fact. It's excluded from the leased area.
Yeah.
He does have rights to use the driveway that goes around the back of it if he needs to lower his vehicle and bring in larger trucks. That does get it farther away from houses. As far as the dust issue, beyond the magical east-west line, we're not doing anything there. I mean, property he's leasing, he's doing a magnificent job in clearing off the gravel and mitigating dust potential. So there may be dust rising from the site, but I don't think much will be coming from the car line. It's going to be pretty much all pavement exposed or repaved.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
I don't feel any other questions that remain if you want me to. Answer questions.
I don't think we have any.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'll confirm what he's saying. I mostly included the line there because I know you will be coming around sometimes. But the actual site, you're right.
The lease site is smaller than represented, but a couple are very gracious, lessor, I might add. So if you need to bring your stuff around,
Yeah.
have at it. But that is an impact resultant from this action though, to bring trucks around and the dust. So I'm kind of recognizing that potential impact, but it will be minimized. So not a daily occurrence.
All right, thank you. I now close the public hearing for application CUP 01-2025 at 7:31 PM. Is there a request to keep the record open? Hearing none. So now is the time for a commission deliberation discussion. Note, only questions asked of staff are allowed after the hearing has been closed. Does anybody have any deliberation or discussion?
No. Why does everybody look at me? I will say I respect the hand-drawn site plans.
Yeah, right.
I will respect that a lot.
You guys have?
Nothing.
No? Okay. Well, then we need, if nobody's got anything, then we just need to get a motion to approve, deny, or modify.
I motion to approve CUP 01-2025, set forth by the staff report.
Second.
All right, Ms. Worth, will you call a vote?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Ornelas?
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp? Chairman Eaglebear?
Aye.
Commissioner Potts?
Aye.
Commissioner Rickey?
Aye.
Commissioner Ansel?
Aye.
Thank you. The vote passes 6-0-0.
All right. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for that.
Thanks, guys.
All right, now we've made it through our hearings. We're going to the general business. It seems that there's a new planning commission appointment for chairman and vice chair. Ms. Worth.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair. It's that time again. You guys get to decide a new chair and a new vice chair.
Okay.
It's up to you guys.
Who wants to be chair?
I move that we keep the two officers we have.
I second that motion.
That was easy. Ms. Worth, will you call a vote?
Absolutely. Commissioner Ansel?
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp?
Aye.
Commissioner Ornelas?
Aye.
Commissioner Rickey?
Aye.
Commissioner Potts?
Aye.
And Chairman Eaglebear?
Aye.
Thank you. That passes 6-0-0.
Fastest appointment in the West.
Can't get away from us.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. All right. Well, then that moves us into our staff communication. So we'll start with Ms. Worth since we're already talking. You got anything on your end?
Only want to point out our gorgeous new logo that you saw in the bottom left-hand corner of both of their public hearing slides. It is celebrating the independence of America for 250 years. It's the semi-quincentennial, say that 10 times fast. I've been trying for a year. But there it is.
Yep.
That's it from me.
Very cool.
Very nice.
Did you design it?
I did not, actually Landon did.
Who did?
Landon, our
Wow.
engineer,
Okay.
our associate engineer.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, that's
We're not the only city that's participating in it.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of people.
I would have
Just to throw that up.
really?
It's weird.
Sam?
Yeah, I got one good update. We actually gonna have the flashing beacon installed and active and energized by next Wednesday for the crosswalk at North Molalla Avenue in Francis. So, yeah, we're looking to get that one up and going and getting that wrapped up. Unfortunately, we probably won't do the permanent paving until we see better weather.
Right.
But we'll end up putting temporary striping down as well, just to make sure it's all put together and they'll come back once we have better weather to actually put the permanent paving and striping down.
Can I ask one question on that project?
Yeah.
Why was that not done before it was paved?
What?
Where you haven't been following along?
What do you mean? What was not done before it was paved?
All the dig up across the road there before that whole road got paved.
Oh, you're talking about the granite inlay a couple of years
Yeah.
ago? That's a good question.
It wasn't a couple years ago. It was literally
He's
last.
talking about
last
the
year.
most recent one.
Yeah, the granite inlay.
Yeah.
That was done
That was
last
last. This was last summer.
year. Yeah.
I can tell
Well-
you why. The reason why is because this project is not a capital project in our master plans. This is based on citizen feedback and input and collisions at that location. So we didn't have plans to go off of. Wasn't something we were anticipating. It's responsive to community need. So that's why.
I was just curious. It was just a shame to have a nice road and then have to get it cut up and.
It'll be still nice. It's gonna get put back together.
Thank you, Sam.
It'll just be a katham.
No, well, yeah, it'll be better.
All right. Anything else? Anything
That's
else
it
on
I
your
have.
end? Mr. Cortell.
All right, well, thank you. Couple quick project updates. We did have the kickoff meeting for the water intake design. So the water intake design is moving forward. You guys remember a couple months back, we went and got funding for that. We were approved for that. So the design is moving forward, and we should have a new water intake structure. And actually, the storms, as bad as they were for some things, were able to teach us some lessons and get us some good information and data on how that'll be constructed in order to avoid getting washed out in major incidents in the future. So that was, lemons from lemonade, or lemonade from lemons. So that's going well. The wastewater treatment plant continues to go well. We're about 35% construction there, moving forward well. So not a whole lot to say about that. You can kind of see it going up, and we haven't hit any major obstacles. So we're pushing forward on that, and we may have an opportunity to remove all of the sludge from both lagoons. One of them was always going to get removed, and then over the next 5 years, the city was going to be removing the sludge from the second lagoon. We're looking at being able to bump that up and doing that within about a 1.5 year window, and just extending the phase one on that, and we'll actually get a better rate, time value of money, and the fact that we're able to keep the same contractor on site with elevated quantities, which will push their unit price down a little bit. So it should be a cost savings to the city. It was something we didn't know that whether we were going to have the funding for it or not, and we do. So that'll kind of square away that wastewater treatment plant for quite a while. So that's exciting. It's going to take a little bit still, but we're moving that way. So those two are kind of the exciting ones. And then you guys have a staff report on your desk that inside of it there's an email chain and kind of some written stuff. So this wasn't on the agenda because this stuff, basically we held the meeting. We had a meeting with the LCD yesterday over some of the communication that was going back and forth between them and some citizens commenting on the urban growth boundary and that sort of thing. And we needed to follow up with them. We couldn't anticipate this in advance of the agenda going out last week. Obviously, we didn't even receive these communications until this week. So that's why this wasn't on the agenda. But the long and the short is we've got some folks who obviously there's probably a split. I don't know exactly, but there are some folks who want the urban growth boundary to grow. There are some folks who do not. That's very common in any urban growth boundary process. So some of those folks were talking to the Department of Land Conservation and Development, who's the state agency that oversees these processes, as you guys know. I'm mostly saying this for folks that are listening at home who aren't maybe familiar with this process. And so there were new updated population estimates put out, not just for Molalla, but most other cities that were really kind of circumscribed compared to what the estimates were when we started this process in 2022. Now, it's very common, not only very common, it's actually just standard that you'll receive new population estimates through the life of the UGB process, because these processes take multiple years and you need a new estimate annually. What is uncommon about this particular situation is that it actually reduced fairly substantially the population estimates, and I think that's based on birth rates and some other things, I'm not exactly sure, because I don't work in the population estimation center, but they have some good reasons why they reduced them fairly across the board. And so some folks are would like for the city to utilize those new estimates, because that would obviously reduce the amount of land. If you have a smaller population estimate, that reduces the amount of land need over the years, and et cetera, right? So it would result in a smaller UGB expansion. One of the main issues when we first discussed this with the council, the city council, was that the costs that had already been sunk into the existing efforts, right? We're kind of on the tail end of most of this stuff, so the money's been paid for a lot of it. We're currently in the process, we just obtained a grant about 4 or 5 months ago for a expanded Goal 14 analysis, and that Goal 14 analysis is based on serviceability. So it talks about how serviceable is the land that you're looking at, or that the state rules would have you look at. And so the city has been trying quite a few different avenues to be able to go north. There's folks in the north that really do want to bring their property into the UGB, and it happens to be substantially more serviceable in terms of cost, right? Because you've got downhill slopes to the wastewater treatment facility. It's fairly adjacent to the wastewater treatment facility. You don't have to run through existing pipes that are already undersized or will be undersized if you add a whole bunch more housing units to them, which means you have to upsize those. So the per unit cost of infrastructure in the north is substantially lower, but in order for the state to kind of accept that, we have to, or even really entertain it. I don't know that they will ultimately accept anything, right? But for them to even entertain that, you have to do a very specific engineered analysis that requires an engineer's stamp and et cetera, cost estimates and all these sorts of things. Pretty, fairly substantial study in the realms of, about $100,000, right? So that's the process that we were scoping and getting ready to do. We got a grant award for that. In order to do that, council would like that to happen. So folks were sharing their concerns with the city, and so we referred them to DLCD to see if DLCD had any other options for them, because we don't really have any. We just follow this process, and that's kind of what we do. And so DLCD said, well, yeah, and I think if you look at the email chain that's attached to my staff report, and kind of start at the bottom, it looks like Ms. Reed, our regional representative for DLCD, is responding to Mr. Gilbert, and she states that I spoke with Dan last week, Dan Zinder, to make sure he understands that DLCD would absolutely be supportive of the city using the newer forecasts and housing allocations. So this we knew, and this is pretty much a given. You can always kind of use, if you wanted to start, we can use the updated, housing or population numbers. So that was known and shared. What we didn't know, or what we had never heard, was that we would offer funding for them to make that switch. I think everyone understands this clearly. It's really the city's hands now to decide what they want to do. Well, that was literally the first time we had ever heard that. And luckily I was just included in the email chain because this was sent to the mayor, and the mayor included staff so that we were aware of the communications of what was going on. And it needs to be included in public comment for the UGB process. So he looped us into the email chain, and I read this and said, okay, so I responded to Ms. Reed and asked her to provide specifics on that funding so that I could share it with the city council, because we need to share all of the relevant factual information with the council so that they can make a decision. I was a little bit disappointed that I hadn't heard this before when I shared it with the council, because it kind of puts my integrity up in the air, and I don't like that very much. But at any rate, so basically the response that we received was, and you guys can read it for yourselves. I don't want to read this back to you, but in summary was, well, you can convert the Goal 14 money that you have now, that you've already been awarded in this grant for the specific purpose, over to this other process and start redoing the UGB studies based on the new population estimates. Or you can apply for grant funding in the new biennium. That's very much in a nutshell. You guys have the real written stuff in front of you, so that's why I'm really summarizing that, so I don't want to act like that's all that was said. There's more in there. But ultimately, that's what we learned about the funding was, hey, you can convert this Goal 14 money. So I think it's a little bit different than what we originally read. And yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. So here's what I'm trying to look for from you guys tonight. Now you can kind of abstain, don't make a motion, say nothing, that's fine. This is last minute stuff because we just got it last minute. Or you guys can make a motion to make a recommendation to the council to use the new population estimates or to stay with the current estimates. Obviously, that's your guys' prerogative on which one of those actions or inaction you guys choose to take. What I would say is that there is no guarantee that if we convert the Goal 14 money over, first of all, I don't know that we have a guarantee that we can convert the Goal 14 money. We've got Ms. Reed saying that, but we don't have the funding arms of DLCD saying that yet. We haven't even had time to try and talk to those folks yet, because again, very new. So if you convert that money and you use it for the UGB studies, that may result in a low enough land need, 50 acres or less, to push the city into a much simpler process, one that is a land use process instead of a legislative process. So, for instance, an appeal would be taken to LUBA instead of to the circuit court, for instance. But it's basically evidentiary hearings, decisions made, adopted, and then, altering the map. I mean, again, that's the short story. So that's a possibility. That's something that can be done. What that also results in is that the city's current HPS, right, would need to still be adopted because we have adoption deadlines on that. We would have to start implementing that the HPS being the housing production strategy. We'd have to begin implementation of that while the UGB studies are being redone. And then provide an updated or new or modified or amended, however you want to look at that. And we're not exactly sure because we couldn't get clear answers. We were getting 2 and 3 different answers sometimes on a given question from the 3 DLCD staff that were in the meeting with us when we were trying to get clarity on what they were actually saying. But ultimately, we'd have to do the new housing production strategy and then implement that, and that would be based on the new owner rules, and the sequential UGB process would need to be scrapped in favor of the most up-to-date UGB expansion rules. So that's kind of the work that would need to be done. And that's only relevant in terms of the fact that staff costs money. Time is money, and that's work that we would be doing in part, and some of that would be grant funded, but obviously staff manages and is very much participatory in all these studies. So there's that. As far as if you were to not use that money, right, that Goal 14 money. Oh, the other part about that is that we don't know whether or not we would be awarded Goal 14 money then to say, let's say 49 acres to try and go north with that instead of south. The money that we have now to do those studies would have been converted, and we'll need to apply for a new competitive grant based on the budgetary ability of DLCD in the new biennium. So we don't know that we would get that grant. We don't know that we would not get that grant. We just know we would have to apply for it, and it is a competitive grant. So that is kind of the nuts and bolts. Is if you wanted to do that, it would result in that lower land need, but those different processes would have to be you kind of heard as much as we know. Some of the work apparently that has been done, again, they couldn't really tell us what, would be applicable to any new process, but some of it wouldn't. So parts of our public engagement process we would be able to use on the new studies without having to redo it, but other parts of it wouldn't meet the new standards, so those would have to be redone. We don't know what those are, and again, DLCD really couldn't tell us or explain this stuff. It was we couldn't really get a final answer, a straight, clear answer out of folks. There was no real kind of clear answer. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It was, you had two of them, one saying, oh no, you can use that, you know, you can use your old public engagement stuff on the new process, and then the other one would say, well, but there's new rules, so part of it might apply, but another part of it might. So we're not quite sure who to believe at this point. Again, this stuff's very new, so we haven't been able to research it as much independently. So, but ultimately, that would kind of be the outcome. Is that, you know, the option is there. It sounds like to switch the Goal 14 money over to doing the UGB process based on new population estimates and resulting in a smaller urban growth boundary expansion for the city that may push us into a easier process, or if it's 51 acres, would still be in the UGB process, but would be a much smaller expansion. The other thing with that is that the new owner rules for the housing production strategy would limit the amount of housing production required from about 1,975 over the next 20 years. I might be off 20 or 30 on that number, but it's in that ballpark, to about 1,145. Yeah, 1,145 would be the new housing production target over the next 20 years based on their methodology and the Oregon Housing Needs Analysis rules that were just adopted that we don't currently fall under with our HPS because we started it before that adoption. I know this is very confusing.
Question.
Go ahead.
Question. I want to give you a break here.
Thank you.
So, if we start this process over,
All over again.
all over with the new numbers,
Yes.
would that put us into the new cycle of all these new regulations instead of still falling on the 2020 cycle that we started with?
Yes.
Correct.
Which would also put us in the smaller land needed
Yes.
market value.
That's the things we know that we can say with confidence is that if you use the smaller numbers, you're going to have a smaller land need. That we know.
And
And we go under new owner rules.
which under the new rules, which in turn would get us, I think, completely out of the south situation, even though it's allocated already, but it's smaller though. I mean, so that it wouldn't have to need as much. I know we want to go to the north. I get it. I understand that. But that would be more feasible to go to the north if it's a smaller partial needed, correct?
I don't think that's how they look at that. It's really.
Well, I understand it needs to the south, but the other process to go to the north would be easier because it's a smaller number we need.
Oh, I see. The analysis would
Yeah.
be smaller to try and make the case to go north.
Yes.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, that's correct. And if that were, absolutely. Yeah, because if you're looking at, you know, analyzing 50 acres versus analyzing 250.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna, yes. So yes, and those are kind of the only, we tried to get factual information. We were really pushing to try and get this because, you know, our role is just to share the information and try and provide facts that, you know, what you guys need to be able to make recommendations and the council needs to make decisions. So it's frustrating because we can't really get straightforward answers on a lot of this stuff. But like I said, what we can say is that there is money there that they have said clearly that we can switch over to the new UGB analysis and use on that. And we know with a great deal of confidence that the projection of 13,000 and change versus 16,000 and change is going to produce a smaller land need. That we can say too, only because logic says it.
So, does this also affect the business plan as well, or just the housing plan?
It would affect it would affect the overall land need.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, so those.
No, that's a good, I've been wondering the same because we didn't ask about the EOA yesterday. The EOA and efficiency measures, sort of what becomes of those processes. And this is really speculation here. I suspect not because we're adopted through it. So we're not altering those plans. Those plans stand as they were adopted. That would be my assumption here, but we would need to get more information on that.
Well, I'm just like hypothetically, like, so if the, like, was it 100 and some odd acres we needed for commercial growth with these numbers? If that number is smaller, do we still need that 100 acres? Could we drop it to 50 acres? You know what I'm saying? You know, just like, does it play hand in hand if we do go forward and go with the new numbers? I'm leaning going with the new numbers. It's going to help us all I think it will help us to obtain the land, easier, using the smaller numbers and not have to get such a large amount of property.
Yeah, and I wish I could make a recommendation, but
Well,
Yeah.
I just,
what would it take to get, my recommendation honestly would be to have staff take the time to get the
Yeah.
appropriate information.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of I don't knows, so I
Too
would
many
rather
I don't knows.
have more information about this and whether or not it's even feasible at a bare minimum, like if that's even a feasible option.
Yeah, because you're at the table with these people and you're asking them questions, you're getting two different answers.
sometimes
Okay, that doesn't do
That's not a
us
good-
any good if we're gonna reinvest money into a new process and then find out, well, we coulda, shoulda, woulda. Then we're holding the bag for this and what we think we're doing
Right.
isn't working. So until you get solid answers, black and white answers on the questions that you guys have, I don't think it's a good idea.
And what I'll say is, I don't know that we will ever get solid answers on some of this. Some of these questions we haven't asked, and we can certainly go back and ask them, and we can also, I mean, some of it I think is, well, we'd have to wait and see what this study produces in order to say what would happen here. And then other parts are, there just seems to be some ambiguity or lack of clarity around what the rules are within the agency that
So can you
administers the
can
rules.
someone refresh my memory? So where are we at with, just a, 50,000 view, like where are we at with all these things that this would affect?
So the housing needs analysis and buildable lands inventory is complete. The economic analysis and buildable lands inventory is complete. The
Okay.
efficiency measures are complete and accepted. And we are in the process of scoping the goal 14 analysis to try and move the expansion north. And that's kind of the last step, and then whatever the state's decision is on that would ultimately
And
tell
when
us
it-
what land it is that would be coming in.
Okay. And is there a decision timeline?
Yes, there's a work plan right now for a sequential UGB. Those dates I don't have off the top of my head, but Dan can probably tell you roughly.
I mean, my understanding for the contract that we're coming up with for the Goal 14 analysis supplement would put the amendment adoption in June. Really, what I've been told from DLCD, and fairly unequivocally in this case, is that we would really have till the end of the year, and that before the new owner rules would apply. So we effectively have the year to work on this amendment.
Which I think,
So we're literally at the tail end of
Yeah.
everything. And by adjusting, I'm just trying to get some clarity.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
So
Me too.
it seems that we're at the very tail end of the entire process that we've been working on. And by going back at, say, the 11th hour and say, hey, can you readjust the population numbers? From what I'm hearing, it sounds like it's just going to snowball backwards through everything.
It will, I mean, we'll be restarting
Yeah.
many of the processes.
Okay.
But you can use some of what you've got.
Some, we couldn't get a clear
Yeah.
answer on what that is, but yes, some of it sounds
Well-
like it would cross over.
And then with the Goal 14 money would be used to redo this process, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then we'd have to reapply for that Goal 14 money again.
That's right.
And there's no guarantee in that.
Right, so it could be that you end up with, a much smaller land need, but that there's conceivably not funding if we were to not get the grant to conduct the analysis necessary to try and make the case to go north. But we could get the grant and have the money. So, I mean, that's reality, that's where we're sitting right now.
And we could get straight answers too.
hey Martin, have you ever worked with any county or cities?
What's that?
Have you ever worked with any county or cities to get anything done?
Yeah.
And you got straight answers?
No, but,
There you go.
well, yeah, I guess I kind of have, but again, we're not talking about me, we're talking about
Yeah.
It's the same
city
principle.
And,
Well,
in the best interest of them and their tax-paying money and everything
I say
like
kick
that.
From a commission's perspective, I would lean towards taking the time, trying to get as much more information as the staff can, and maybe give us an update on that, but I don't know that that would be really all that beneficial, because we would need to have a kind of a theoretical understanding of what that impact looks like if we did use the lower numbers at this juncture, what that impact is, not only on the things that we've already completed, but also like what are the new, I'm not up on what the new rules would be to, that we would have to comply by. It sounds like there's some other additional regulations.
Yeah, there's new rules for the buildable lands inventory, and really the Oregon Housing Needs Analysis is a more prescriptive regime for housing productive strategies. So instead of, the current housing production strategy that we would be adopting right now says, hey, you need this much multifamily, which I think at this point is like 0.
Yeah, we're done.
You need this much single-family residential. You need this much, low-income, affordable. It just has, a few classifications that are like that. The new rules go based on percentage of average median income. So, like 0 to 33% of average median income, you need to produce this many units that are affordable at that number, at 30 to 30, or 0 to 33% of the average median income, and then you need to develop this many units that are 33 to 45%. I don't know the exact splits, but they're basically split until you get all the way up to even 120% is one of them actually, strangely enough.
You're aiming at much more specific targets.
Yeah.
So is it possible to punt this down the road until we get some more facts and findings to bring it back to us, so we can bring it to give you a recommendation to go to the council with?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think that's a recommendation in and of itself. If you guys wanted to move and say, hey, we'd like staff to collect more information, because it was very last minute. I'll say we haven't done our independent research because we just haven't had the time to do independent research on how this would impact things. Yeah. Honestly, the council had already decided to proceed based on the information we provided that didn't have this new information with it, right? And that's why I wanted to make sure to get this in here, because this is new information that has not, I didn't know it, so there's no way anyone, that anyone else did, because we administer the process. So if I hadn't heard it, there's no way anyone else did.
Okay. Well,
So, yeah, I think if you guys could make a motion to that end, and then we can take that recommendation to the council at tomorrow's meeting, because we're going to be having a roughly similar discussion, because I know this is more questions than answers, but I needed to get it in front of you guys as soon as possible. And we really did press for answers. You can even see me pressing for answers in my email. We'll continue to press for answers and do independent research to hopefully be able to answer all your questions.
So are the vastly reduced projected needs, do we believe those numbers? Because they're based on the changes during COVID and a period of high interest rates and...
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not in a position necessarily to comment on the reliability of their studies. I know that it's generally accepted practice that we accept the numbers that PSU presents, whatever those might be. It's written into law in many places that's what we have to rely on. But as far as, I would have to know more about their methodology and what they're doing in order to speak intelligently on that one. I'd be lying to you if I said anything on that.
And my suspicion is their methodology really favors everyone living in apartments.
Well, no. They do the whole state, though. They're responsible for the entire state, so they're not going to push apartments throughout the entire state, as much as they would love to, but, I mean...
Just a quick clarifier, what's the population difference between the number we are using and...
It's about 2,000.
Yeah, 2,000 and change.
2,000 people.
That's quite a bit for this little town.
Yeah.
Well, and it's quite a bit in the face of the overall number, right?
Right.
I mean, 2,000 over 13,000 is, you know, that's almost
No,
20%,
I didn't know
right? I
that.
mean, we're talking 17, 18% difference.
That's a huge difference
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
for this little town.
I was just getting clarity.
But you know, I guess to respond to Mr. Potts' question, and this is a little bit of speculation on my part, but it passes my smell test just because I think the pressure on growth in Oregon isn't as much as it once was. I think just the affordability difference between Oregon and Washington and California was substantial, and it's not as substantial anymore. So that was a big factor in a lot of folks choosing to move here. And then the other piece being overall birth rate decline nationally. The amount of kids that people are having is just less. So it passes my smell test for those reasons. In addition, the COVID is sort of situational, but these are longer term trends that I think that that PSU has been honing in on. Although they claim that the migration factor doesn't affect their numbers. It's the other stuff.
Okay.
Do you feel like going back and kind of trying to gather more intel, basically what we're kind of pointing at? Do you think that's going to help you get this done, or do you think it's just going to be more of the same? I guess what I'm getting at is like, is that going to really generate what, you know, normally we could say, hey, go get some more info and come back.
Yeah.
But you're saying, man, I've been trying to get more info. I'm running against the wall. So are we just treading water here? Are we burning time?
Well, I would say just giving those folks over there the benefit of the doubt. They're probably, my questions were probably akin to the questions kind of that I'm getting from you guys right now. Like they weren't necessarily prepared for all of them. I mean, this came to them within a day or two also.
Sure.
So if we can give them a little more time to answer, we might be able to get more definitive answers. I mean, but the one thing I will say is with this stuff, the UGB stuff, all of it is so very much, well, that depends on this, which depends on this, which depends on this. So it's hard sometimes to get any definitive answer because there just isn't one.
Right.
You know, it just, a lot of times the proof is in the pudding. What did the study say? Okay,
right.
well, that's how you know.
Mm-hmm.
So but I do think that giving them a little more time to respond couldn't hurt. We could at least get some more answers,
Okay.
and we can, and like I say, independently start, you know, looking at these questions in terms of the new statutes and all of that good stuff too, and do some independent work to that end too, and not just rely on DLCE. So I think a little bit of time may provide some clarity.
Okay.
It likely would provide a more clarity than what we have sitting here today.
True.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's get a motion for recommendation to have staff continue to look into this.
I'll make a motion that we have the staff look into the possibility of using the other numbers.
Any second?
Second.
Whoa.
We all second.
I'm just listening for voices. Okay. All right. Cornelis?
Aye.
Aye.
Sharp?
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp, sorry. Chairman Eaglebear?
Aye.
Commissioner Ansel?
Aye.
Commissioner Potts?
Aye.
Commissioner Rickey?
Aye.
Thank you. The vote passes 6-0-0.
All right. Cool. Well, so after that long conversation, I'm assuming that was it.
Yeah, that's it for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, more to come.
Okay. Dan, anything going on over there?
Tangent to this, just want to give a quick update on the HPS. You know, in November we reported that we'd gotten the money to redo the HPS on remand. That we're now under contract. That's underway. We're having a meeting with the TAC tomorrow. Commissioner Ansel will be joining us, I believe, on that meeting.
Nice.
And yeah, we're basically, we've got a draft. Draft came to me today. I went out to council, and so we'll be talking through the changes in that draft for the housing production strategy. But I think we came up with a bunch of sort of good compromises. Stuff that I think that will make it more palatable to the DLCD reviewers. We have the reviewers on our PMT calls now, so they're with us every step of the way. And I think some stuff that'll help with the city as well, like looking at potential annual fees for short-term rentals, for example, that could go towards affordable housing development. So we'd have a dedicated revenue stream, for example, that wasn't included before. So a couple tweaks to that nature that are substantial, and there's other stuff, just the crossing the T's and dotting the I's that they were looking for in the first round. So, yeah, like I said, draft going to council for their review next week, and we hope to adopt in February.
Any projects or anything big coming, or?
I mean, it's all UGB, man. This is it. So that's what I have for now.
Thanks all for the engaging discussion and good questions tonight. It was great.
Yeah. Liking things so far still?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
This is fun. Going well.
All right, good. All right, commission. Does the commission have any local news or ideal things?
Negative.
The chamber Christmas tree ceremony with the city, I think, was really well attended this year and went really well. And we weren't able to do a parade, so we're coming up with ideas for hopefully next year, because a lot of people were disappointed we weren't able to do the Christmas parade. But maybe we'll do an ugly sweater parade next year and walk around town in our ugly sweaters. But anyway, that's all.
All right. Since I live right across the street from the school, it seems that there's a bunch of construction activity going on right now. Looks like they were pouring concrete of some kind. I'm assuming footings, things like that. I don't know. I didn't go look, yeah. But, so things are starting to move, looks like. So there's that. The middle school.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. I do have kind of just a quick kind of question or request for staff. Do we have any kind of marketing or ads going out to try and fill our empty seat here?
Oh,
and then on top of that, this is kind of just an idea, and I don't even know where to begin on it, so I'm not looking to get into it right now, just more to kind of get the juices going. But I don't know what the rules are on it. You know, we have to have currently, there can only be 2 people from outside the city limits.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's how it is right now. Does it have to be that? Is there, what would be the process to go about looking at? Because I know there's a couple people right now that are very interested in taking that spot, but it's been vacant for a year because those people are outside of city limits.
So there's kind of 2 ways you could go about having it, because that's a council consideration situation, right?
Okay.
So there's kind of 2 ways you could go about it. You could go about it in terms of, as planning commissioner, Ricky, you could move to recommend that be expanded, and then get the rest of the planning committee, or 3 other members of the planning commission to support on it, and then we would take it to council as a recommendation from the planning commission. The other way you could do it is as citizen. Ricky, is just to reach out as a citizen to any one of your elected officials. The mayor is a good one there too, but to ask them to put it on the agenda. Okay. I think you would find a lot more fruit recommending it through your planning commission.
Okay.
But that is another way that things can wind up on the agenda.
Okay. Do we want to talk about that tonight, or do we want to put that on next month's agenda? What do you guys want to do?
I say kick it to next month.
Okay.
So
It's been a long night.
So we'll include that on the agenda next month.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll be filled by then. We can take it off.
Hey, that's the challenge right there, is for Jessica to to get us somebody real quick.
We definitely have been putting out, you know, in the newsletter, on socials and that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
But if you guys, you know, obviously if you guys see that stuff and you can, you know, rebroadcast, what do you call that? Repost?
Repost.
Yes,
Yeah,
you can share my posts,
repost
please.
it, share the
them.
post. I guess that's what it's called.
I think it's called a stitch. On TikTok.
Uh-huh.
Lifeline.
Lifeline.
Cool, that's it. Thank you guys.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. With that, I guess, if there's anything else for the good of the order? No? All right, well, I adjourn this meeting at 8:16 p.m.